if you've not watched my Shift with Your Shadow, or just don't really feel called to watch that at all, that's okay. We're going to talk about that as well, because it does actually coincide with what we're talking about today. Go figure. Yeah. So the energy we've had, like, I was reading, and I talked about this in my last video. I was reading like something about like this thing called what's a cannibal from the sun, which is basically a huge burst of energy that's pulsated at the earth at like 12 something million miles per hour, and it created like a lot of geomagnetic storms. And so like the Schumann resonance, if you guys follow that, I don't know if you do, not everyone does, but if you do, it's been like up and down, it's been all kinds of craziness. I wish my cards didn't fly everywhere. I hate bending over in these fucking videos, but whatever. Anyway, yeah. So we've been seeing like a lot of these patterns. Like a lot of things have come up from the past. Like, you know, we face them like here and there all the time, but it's pretty prevalent right now. Whether it be like a past lover, a past friend, past family member, like somebody you just haven't talked to in a long time, you've had like, you know, an out with over like, you know, situations in the past, and you just maybe weren't talking for a while, and even if you guys weren't on like necessarily completely bad terms, like it still brought up a lot of things within you, because a lot in like our youth, we're just kind of like we're still figuring out society, we're still figuring out our social skills and our social life in general. So it's kind of like we take on a lot more than what we should when we're younger, and we accept a lot more than what we should when we're younger, because we're just kind of conformed and confined by society to do these things in order to fit in or whatever. Maybe not everyone has always done that throughout their youth, but generally, like rule of thumb, that's what happens. So it's important to kind of face these past situations, so you can understand like the depth of who you are now and what you've grown from, because a lot of the times we'll find ourselves when we do face these people again is that we don't have the same toleration for BS that we used to have, even if it was like mild BS, like that sounds silly, but you know what I mean, like we put up with a lot more in the past than what we are going to now. And maybe because we're adults now, we have like real responsibilities, like we're not like teenager responsibilities or young adult responsibilities. I technically still a young adult, but you know, still got my own responsibilities. I put up with way less than what I used to. Point being is we face these things so we can see our own growth, and in that structure of mirroring and reflection, we can see our own inner strengths and wisdom, and that gives us a lot of time to really grow up, a lot further than what we even are or perceive ourselves as, because we actually can visually see, you know, our growth and what we're, you know, doing to improve ourselves and improve our relationships and our life and our happiness, and start fulfilling ourselves with better things. And so you can see this growth, and that it kind of takes you through this reflection pool of being able to take on different things. So this will be a reflection of like your career, a reflection of your business, a reflection of your social structures, and what you're going to do in the future, and what you're going to tolerate and not tolerate in the future. It helps you grow even more boundaries when you can see the boundaries that you put in place and what have actually protected you, versus like projections and, you know, our toxic boundaries, because some of us do have toxic boundaries. I'm talking to you in the back over there. It's okay. It happens. Just fix it. Oh god, I'm sorry. That was mean. I'm just kidding, sort of. Okay. So we can actually put in healthy boundaries that are realistic for other people and for ourselves, where, you know, we're not tolerating And if we don't have the energy capabilities, like, be honest with yourself. If you're just not able to put up with somebody's attitude or their pessimism or whatever it is, yeah, in a lot of ways it can be viewed as a toxic boundary, but at the same time, like, we don't, if there's like these toxic pessimists and people who are just kind of always constantly weighing us down and just saying negative things and just feeding our feedback loop with just toxic negativity, then yeah, maybe you should just cut things off and just start somewhere new. Anyway, there's a lot of cards here, but I'm just kind of going with what I'm seeing anyway. Sorry. But yeah, the first card that I got was the Prince of Wands. Again, like the past coming up. This is like, okay, so this is like the card of just, the Prince of Wands is really about just like responding, or I should say reacting on impulse. So really just kind of straightforward, like lust, desire, things that don't have a whole lot of thought and play into them, or maybe more play than thought, I should say. So it's really, it's important to, again, reflect on these past people. And it's not necessarily, it's not a shot at them. Like, we don't go through this to take a shot at them. Like, they're not our enemy. They're not a frenemy. They're not like bad people. They've just, they're going through their own experiences, and they just have some lessons to teach us. And it's not, that you should see that person as a lesson. I don't really believe in that. I think it's kind of gross to say that. But, like, we learn a lot through going through these experiences, and it's really important to understand like your limitations, so you can understand what's actually healthy and is challenging you versus what is unhealthy and is trying to bring you actually down. So, the Justice card came right after the Prince of Wands. So again, like, seeking, it's not about necessarily seeking justice with that person, but justice within yourself. So it's not about justice with them. Like, if your game is to just get like closed doors from everybody who's done you wrong, okay, first of all, I don't know what your expectation in life is, but you should probably focus on something else and just, live and learn, forget that sort of thing. But really, it's actually about really receiving real justice in your situations, so that you're not just, wanting this justice from this person, or the situation itself, but you're wanting justice for yourself and your own inner freedom, your peace of mind again. So this is basically, it's like a peace of mind card. So just, understand that like the stuff is coming up with real lessons to kind of make us capable of taking the next step, so we can kind of navigate. Because a lot of the times, especially in our youth, we're just kind of going with the flow, going down this path. But then when we get to a certain age, or we've reached like a certain epiphany in life, or just gone through enough things, we start to want to reflect and see exactly which path we want to take. And so we shift our focus towards that path. And there's going to be a lot of like tower moments, or maybe you've already gone through all the tower moments, but there's going to be a lot of like releasing, surrendering, and just reaching for new things and taking risk associated with those things. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you should risk everything or that everything will be risked, but you're going to take a lot, you're going to put yourself out there a lot more than what you're used to. So there will be strife in these situations. This strife will also teach you more about like your capabilities, what you want to go for, what you don't really want to go for, but you thought you did. So like it gives you a realistic approach to your goals and in life. So you can actually see like, it's not like, okay, prime example, big example. Like if you want kids and your soul is like wanting to have a family and children, you have to actually go through some of this turmoil, because there are risks associated with pregnancy. There's risk associated with having kids. You're going to have to pay more bills. You're going to have less time for yourself. A lot of your time will be focused on your kids, schoolwork, all of these things, and you know, it's all steps and stuff, and you can't really plan for everything. And that's also the point of testing you through strife, so you can actually get a realistic idea of what you're actually getting into. So you're not just, you know, having this fantasy, this you know, made up reality of what you want it to be. And so when it happens and it's not exactly what you expected, you're not completely distorted and distracted from what you actually want. Meaning, like, you won't take this in a negative way. You'll understand that, you know, hey, I did sign up for this, and there are going to be some ups, there's going to be some downs, and there's probably going to be more downs than ups sometimes, and that's okay. Sometimes there's going to be more ups than downs. But like, the thing is testing yourself through strife will allow you to plan and prepare for, you know, not necessarily worst case scenario, but it will help you prep for those things, so you don't have to have that stress associated, you don't have to have that worry associated, and you can find out, you know, a lot more of where you want to be, and what you're actually getting into again. So abandoned success. So maybe even coming back towards some things. Maybe this past person or event or whatever is coming up for you may actually show you some of the things that you had wanted to do previously, and maybe been taken on a different path because of situations. So that's also, you know, a big scenario too, because that happens a lot to most of us, because we have like this idea of like goals and things that we want to do, but then, you know, life happens and it distracts us. We get pregnant. I'm not pregnant, by the way, just these are examples, I'm sorry, God. But like, seriously, like, there are steps and there are procedures for everything, but you're not going to have a step and you're not going to have a procedure for everything. And that's what life is trying to tell you. And that, you know, just because you've put something down in the past doesn't necessarily mean you can't come back to it. Like, I put all this art stuff on my shelf and I haven't touched it in weeks. Just kidding. I've been painting here and there. But you know what I mean? Like, I can come back to it. It's right here. I can come back to it at any time. Hopefully sooner than later. But, you know, just because it's an abandoned success doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the world. Doesn't mean that you're never going to reach up to whatever your goals are. It's just something that you put on the back burner because things happened. So it's fine. It's not a big deal. Material works. This is the last card that we got. Look at that, the Three of Pentacles. You know what that means, though? That means everything happens for a reason. Go figure, right? No, seriously, like, it really does. Like, the bad things, the good things. I know sometimes it's really hard to understand that the bad things happen for a reason, too. But we do learn a lot of gratitude through going through turmoil. And that's not to say, like, we should be, like, punishing ourselves or anything like that. I'm just saying that, you know, we do actually learn a lot more about gratitude and grounding and structure when we go through things. I am pulling from the Pleasure Oracle as I shuffle these cards in your face. We're going to pull one card from here as well, just to kind of get some clarity on what we're doing and what we should be doing. But yeah, so there's going to be a time where you're going to have to motivate yourself to actually take the next step, and that motivation will stimulate from the things that you've gone through, and just, you know, having that click in your brain. Okay, so I'm gonna get a little dark for you, I'm sorry, but you know, I did actually have like a near-death experience like 3 years ago, and actually put a lot of perspective in my life about what I was doing, what I wasn't doing, and what I shouldn't be doing anymore, and what my limitations were, because actually it was health associated too. So I had a lot of, like, you know, things that came up in my health that are, I'm assuming, permanent, but aren't necessarily like defining features of me, but they just, you know, they did affect my life greatly, and it made me kind of slow down and calm down. Not that I was a wild child or anything like that, but, you know, it helped me kind of, you know, regain a little clarity on what I was doing and what I shouldn't be doing anymore at all, and what I don't want to put up with. And a lot of that was stress associated with other people bringing stress into my life. And that's not to say that they themselves or bad people again, but like, you know, there was a lot of people who were constantly, you know, pushing not necessarily my buttons but my limitations. And a lot of people, a lot of narcissists will actually do that. And you know, there's not that many. Okay, so there's this, like, there was this big thing with like narcissism. Like, it was like the big word of the year in 2023 for some reason. I mean, I get it, but really, like, everyone is a narcissist in a lot of ways. But I guess there are like these extremes, extreme people and personalities that do actually want to test you because of things that they've gone through and what people have done to them. And so they kind of get like this thrill, excitement from having this sort of emotional or psychological control over somebody else. So that's not like to say that, you know, narcissism doesn't exist. But my point is that it's not necessarily about these individuals, you know? You can't just go around calling everybody a narcissist and just expect people to take you serious. Some people are just, you know, going through things, and, you know, it's just time to kind of separate yourself and give them space to grow. So sometimes it's really that simple. Sometimes we don't have to look that far into, like, why somebody is doing something that they're doing, or, you know, like, sometimes it's just about grounding. That's funny. Ground down. Disassociation is a learned phenomena as much as it is a personal coping strategy. Most of us, by default, have our head in the clouds or on our phones. We act as if our minds aren't connecting to our bodies, as if they're distinct. Through grounding back into our bodies every day as needed, we realize the power combined, and there's so much pleasure to be found in this place. To feel the pull of gravity on your bodies, on our bodies, and the weight against the earth, to notice our breath and heart rate change with our thoughts, to feel the aliveness of our vessel and know that we're fully resourced. That is joy embodied. So it's really about, it's going to bring you back to yourself. So like a lot of, like, you know, what I went through with like my near death experience, it actually made me, you know, it did take me through a lot of, you know, conflict and turmoil. And, you know, I had to deal with like doctors, and I had to disagree with doctors who wanted me on medicines and stuff like that. And, you know, I actually ended up healing myself through mushroom therapy. There's a video about it, by the way. I'll put the link in the description box below if you want to learn about microdosing therapy and seizures. But the point is, you know, it took a lot of time for me to actually cool down and calm down and ground myself. So it's not about really just like how long it's going to take, or, you know, it's not about the time frame of how long it takes to calm down and really be able to reflect, because sometimes you have to have a few freaking seizures for it to really click in your head, like, hey, chill out, dude. You don't need that freaking 9 to 5. You didn't even want to do those things with your life. So just, it's not that big of a deal if we miss out on that and just do something else. You know, I actually did go through a lot. You know, I lost my job, I lost my mind because epilepsy, and, you know, I lost my car, I wasn't able to drive, I wasn't able to go anywhere. Kind of don't live in like a major city or anything. Shouldn't put that out there, but, you know, like I was kind of confined in a lot of ways, and it made me, it forced me, and sometimes people do take forcing. I mean, I'm a stubborn person, I know that I am. I'm a Virgo. But, you know, like, it took a lot of force from these situations that made me kind of reflect, and it took time. Like, I'm not saying these things are just going to be, like, something that you can do overnight, but you really can make the choice. You really can. You have the capabilities and the resources to make that choice. Sometimes you just gotta see it with a little bit more clarity, and the only way that you can get clarity is if you just smacked and have the entire universe change in front of you. It's crazy. And no, it can be overwhelming and overstimulating in a lot of ways, and it will make you crack and crumble. But the cracking and the crumbling, dude, have you... Okay, so perception. I'm going to go into my metaphors. I'm sorry. I know that they're awful. But, okay, so you know, like, yeah, it's a Chinese tradition, or is it a Japanese tradition? I think it's a Chinese tradition, but please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Where, you know, when there's a cracked teapot, they have like okay, no, it is Japan, because tea ceremonies. So Japanese culture, there's this culture around tea ceremonies, and so there's like this really spiritual essence from a teapot itself. It has a lot more purpose and meaning than just, you know, it's a teapot. It has soul, it has purpose, it is a ritual that people experience and go through. And so when your teapot, especially ceramic teapots, especially back in the day, actually, this is I'm sure there's a lot more lore to this, so forgive me, but you know, when a teapot started to crack from all the heat and the pressure, because, you know, putting a lot of heat in water, it expands this teapot, and so it starts to have all these little cracks, and so there's this beauty in this idea and concept behind it, and I'm not sure who really came up with it, but they would fill these cracks with gold. And so, like, if you look, you can look this up, there's like, they would actually fill the I don't know exactly how they did it, but they would fill these cracks with like gold back in the day. I don't think people still do it, but it'd be really cool if they did. They probably do somewhere. But it was like this idea and concept that it wasn't like the teapot's fault that it cracked, and it didn't mean that it was worthless or useless. They brought it beauty. They poured beauty back into the teapot and resourced it so it was still useful. And so, like, in fixing this teapot with all these gold cracks, so it's like, it's not like it got rid of the cracks, but it made the cracks beautiful. Perception! I told you I'd get better at metaphors. I hope that one made sense. But, you know, so it's not just about like the good, the bad, the beauty, the ugly, you know, it's just about life. We're here experiencing life. There's gonna be ups and downs, but you can start shifting your own reality again towards your goals. So you have to have this perception in order to really see with a lot more clarity. You have to go through these things in order to see who you really are and who you want to be and who you don't want to be and who you don't want to associate with. And that doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that you're redefining yourself and what you want to experience. And you have the freedom to do that. You have the honor to do that. That is your free will. Like, make that choice for yourself, because it's going to make you happier. Now, let's not just, you know, forget all of our duties and the things that we did actually sign up for. Like, be realistic, especially, you know, I don't feel like I should have to say this, but like, if you're a parent, like, don't structure your life away from your kids just because you want to focus on yourself. But you can bring back this power towards yourself by restructuring your time and scheduling. So like, I truly, and you know, maybe because I'm not a parent, I shouldn't be saying this, but I feel like people could and should make like 2 hours out of their day to just focus on themselves throughout the day. Whether that's like 2 hours separated, but I really think they should be combined in just consistent 2 hours where you're just doing something to yourself. You're not just, you know, scattered everywhere, like, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I'll do this now, and then I'll go do that chore then, and then I'll come back to this. Like, that is chaotic. And some of us are very, very beautiful in chaos. Some of us thrive in chaos, but not all of us do. And I don't know if it's realistic to do. I really don't, because sometimes I'm a chaotic mess. But when I actually structure my day, when I actually go with the flow and surrender to my day, then things come through a lot easier. And it's when I start focusing so much on like the actual like scheduling and doing all the things that I need to do, that's when things start chaotically happening, and so my idea of the day gets shifted and something else happens, and so everything gets thrown off. So that, I mean, I don't know, I don't think it's always going to be the way that things go if you plan and structure things, but sometimes they will go that way when you plan and structure things. So it's not always just about the plan, the structure, and not being able to meet these goals within your day. Sometimes you can have bad days. That's okay. Sometimes you can have a good morning and then have a bad afternoon. Or a bad morning and a good afternoon. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes we just gotta be okay with what we're doing. It's not about like the end game. Sometimes we just have to just understand that we're, you know, there are things beyond our control, and having that freeness in our mind will allow us to not focus so much on like the details and the nitty-gritty, and so we can just learn how to just do. Because when you just do something, honestly, it's a lot better than stretching. Because you can be like one of those preppers and planners. There are these individuals, like some people go through with their plans. But not everyone does. There's these individuals, not talking about me specifically or anything, but you know, where we like have this idea of how our day's gonna go, so we structure and plan all these things, and then when things don't go the way we're planning, we're like looking at the clock and we're like, oh well, God, I'm going to collapse. Like, it's not just about like being able to do all of these things. Like, maybe you should just have like a general goal list of all the things that you need to do throughout that day or throughout that week, and just start checking them off as you go. And so that gives you a lot more gratitude and clarity on what you're accomplishing, and so you can give yourself more credit for the things that you're doing and accomplishing. I am just saying, there are things that work out for different people in different ways. So find what works out for you and allow it to shift your reality towards where you want to be and where you want to go. So make that leap of faith, put yourself out of your comfort zone, and just like, sometimes you just gotta do something in order for something to happen. So in order to shift your reality, you gotta start taking action. So cut things off, do things more, ground yourself, understand that you're not capable of everything, but create realistic goals and start knocking those things off of your checklist, because I believe in you and you should believe in yourself too. I love you. I hope you enjoyed today's reading, speech, and metaphor. I hope that made sense. I love you, and even if it didn't make sense, please hit that like and subscribe button, because it helps me help you.